Man, they put the seat so high when they drive. I'm just make sure this is good. Okay.
Oh, car's coming. Molly made. All right. So I'm looking for the it factor in employability. Do you know what I mean by the it factor?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, all right, they have it. We want them on our team, type of thing. And so there's kind of 4 stages of the interview process. And there's the finding stage, the interview stage, the trial stage, and then like the promotional stage. And so I have like 2 questions for each one of those.
Yeah.
So in looking at, and when you're thinking about this, think about the best employees or coworkers that you've had, and just kind of like, what did they do, or how did we find them, I guess.
Okay. In
a lot of ways. So when you think about the best people your company has hired, how are they first discovered?
Oh, good question. I mean, some people that were really good did just come through the regular resume application process. We also have had some really good people come through referrals, like a friend or family member. We've had some good people come in that way, or maybe they're already friends with an existing, worker. So I feel like it's a variety. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can say that the best have come from necessarily networked, like connected individuals, but we've had some good people come through that way.
Okay. 50-50?
Yeah, probably 50-50 for the really good candidates that have done super well.
Okay. So when you're sorting through these applications, what makes one person rise to the top before the interview stage?
For a lot of positions that I've hired for, it's really just that the core experience on the resume lines up well with what we're looking for. And then I'd say a big turnoff is if the resume is like more than a page and a half long. Even if the experience seems good, like we just get bored with it, or we think that this candidate is maybe a little bit too high on themselves. Again, that's pretty like early stages stuff. And then also if there's extracurriculars, if they not only worked at this business, but they started something on the side as like like a club or a fun activity, or we started this TED Talks thing at our company, like people who have done the job but have also found other ways to contribute. Those jump out when I see that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, interesting. So when it comes to the interview stage of things, are there any qualities or skills that make someone stand out during the initial hiring process beyond just the resumes or formal qualifications?
Yes, there's 2 big ones that are slightly contradictory. One is confidence and the other is humility.
Oh, interesting.
And having both of those attributes, I feel like really sets people apart. Now, I guess part of what I mean by confidence is like, they're comfortable communicating, they can explain themselves, they're not going to give one-word answers or one-sentence answers if it's a question that we're really looking to understand, maybe how they showed a certain behavior in the past on whether it's a school project or a past, work experience. We're looking to see that they can explain themselves, that they're confident, but they're also willing to say what they don't know and be like, oh yeah, actually I haven't really done that. Or here, give me a second, I need to think about an example, before just shooting right off into it. And it's also, after a while, it's more obvious when people are kind of faking it or trying to pretend that they've done something. And so that's also a big turnoff if they're too confident or they're not willing to admit their own kind of limitations or maybe, experiences that maybe don't satisfy the question that we asked.
Okay. And when you're talking about overconfidence, are these the people that are like overinflating their resumes and stuff like that?
Sometimes, although that one can be hard to pick up on. We've had people that have pretty solid answers to questions in the interviews, or know enough to kind of get by, and then later on it becomes clear that maybe they were faking it a little bit, and those are candidates that haven't typically worked out all that well after the 3-month mark or 6-month mark.
Okay.
So
yeah, and I do have some questions about that stage of things. What's the most common reason someone gets hired even when there are multiple qualified candidates?
I mean, a big part of it is fit with the team. Like, if it seems like the culture of the environment, right? Like in terms of the 3 major companies I've worked for, which would be KPMG, T-Mobile, and Costco, it definitely makes a difference what the culture of the company is, right? Like in Costco, we're not expecting people to work 60-hour weeks ever, really. Like, we really don't want to do that. Whereas if somebody came in wanting to prove themselves and wanting to work a ton of hours, when I was, say, with KPMG or T-Mobile, that would be more of a plus. So there is a cultural fit thing. Also, we've had people say, like, hey, I really want to socialize with my coworkers. And at some companies, like where I work now, yeah, we're going to socialize at work, but we're not going to go to a lot of happy hours or like dinner together or other extracurriculars. That's not like, yeah, it could happen, but it's not like in the DNA of our company. So that's part of it too. But again, I don't know, like in terms of the setting apart the candidates that are equally qualified, I think a lot of it is finding that right balance of confidence and humility in people who are good at what they know, but also are still curious and want to learn and get better, and can demonstrate that by the questions that they ask. They're curious, they're excited, they're enthusiastic. Those, I'd say, pretty easily set people apart. Like, oftentimes we have lunch with candidates, and if they don't really have any questions for us, that's a pretty big turnoff. It's like, well, why are you interviewing if you're not going to just ask us some random questions to get to know more about the team or the job, or
like their investment?
Yeah, like that they want to learn it, they want to be a part of it. So, yeah, that's one that our team frequently talks about during the interviewing and like recruiting process.
Oh, interesting. Are there any signs or gaps that makes you hesitant to hire someone, even if they appear qualified on paper?
Yes. A couple of the big red flags are if, we don't expect people to be like crazy polite or respectful, but if they make a comment that seems to indicate that they don't respect people below them, like maybe sometimes we ask if they've had opportunities to train other people, and if they say they have a hard time being patient, or I don't really want to train people because I can just do it better myself, those are red flags, because we hire people who can also build the team and teach others rather than just demonstrate that they know it. So that's a pretty big red flag. That's popped up a couple of times where it's like everything else was pretty solid. Couple of times where they were kind of not standoffish, but kind of like dismissed the admin, one of the people kind of coordinating the interviews and other activities, where they just were not maybe super respectful, or maybe had a comment or two. If they talk about other people in kind of a demeaning way that they've worked with in the past, that's also like, okay, this is an interview and you're already throwing other people under the bus. Like, that's not a good sign either. And that's I guess part of the culture of my current team. But I'd say that was the same in other businesses I've worked for when we were recruiting.
Oh, interesting. So when we get to the kind of the trial period, you know what I mean by the trial period? It's just like, all right, we hired them.
Yep.
Did we make a good choice? Let's check it out. After they're hired, what qualities and behaviors help them become a strong long-term fit for the workforce?
Yeah. Good question. I'd say the curiosity part is a really big part of it. That's both in terms of learning about the business, learning about the job, accepting that there are different ways of doing things, and that's okay. and it's great when they bring some ideas. That's a really positive sign that they're going to be a stellar employee when they're like learning it, but they're also like, hey, what about this way? Or hey, what happens if XYZ? If they have a lot of good questions that show they're thinking about like, oh, why are we doing this work? And what's the, just questions whether it's different from how they've seen it elsewhere, or maybe they have an idea. That's a really positive sign. And then, of course, their ability to kind of slowly integrate with the team, right? We don't expect them to become best friends overnight with the team, but they do need to, meet people and get to know people and start to kind of integrate with the culture of the team. And then, of course, maybe most important, like, is that they can do the job, right? Like, we don't expect that to happen all at once. We give quite a bit of room to train and teach and give people examples and maybe show them some previous work that they can kind of use as a reference when they're doing something. But I'd say that's obviously important. And then again, in a corporate environment, it kind of goes without saying, but like they need to show up to work on time. They need to have basic organizational skills, basic communication skills. That goes for both discussion and writing. For what I do specifically, we also expect some decent analytical skills in terms of how do you put data together, how do you document that data in like a way that can logically be read and understood. And so, I mean, those are all kind of, I'd say, kind of the base layer of people need to bring that to the job for us to have confidence that they'll, make it past that kind of intermediate or kind of early hiring period.
What about communicating the data too? Being able to analyze and communicate like what their findings are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really important. And that if there is a question that pops up or something on the data, that they're not just going to sit on that, they're going to ask somebody and not be afraid to ask questions. We do run into trouble if people feel like they need to figure it all out on their own. Most of the work we do is very collaborative. So when they see something or when they're not sure how to do a certain audit step or how to interpret the evidence, then we end up losing a lot of time. And sometimes, it doesn't just slow down the work, but it makes it more frustrating for everybody involved when we're trying to be like very efficient about what we do.
Okay. What skills or characteristics separate employees who simply perform their jobs from those who become strong candidates for promotion?
Yes. The strong employees are constantly trying to figure out how they can be better and how they can take on more responsibilities. And sometimes that just means like finding a pain point on the team and thinking of how to solve it. Maybe if there's different department like initiatives or activities, maybe they're getting involved in that. But it's doing more than just like the basic job. It's doing the basic job well and then also growing on top of that. It's much easier to promote people when they're doing those things. And then on the other side, of course, if they can't do the basic job, then they're really not going to get promoted, and they might even have to have some kind of performance, improvement plan, which is not ideal.
Yeah, interesting. When it comes to the performance promotion, like you're right, we want to make sure we keep them on the team. Let's make sure they get promoted and stuff. Are there any qualities, behaviors, or skills or gaps that prevent people from being promoted even when they're technically good at their job?
Yes, and I can think of a couple of examples that I've worked with both on my current team and previously. A couple of things that have prevented people are, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but if there's a feeling of entitlement where they kind of think that they can do a basic halfway done, like okay job, and that they're expecting to get promoted for that, that doesn't fly well. That doesn't go all that well. If they don't get along with one or multiple people on the team, that also doesn't work well. Like if we're going to promote somebody, they're going to embody the culture of the company, and they're going to be able to work with anybody on the team, and we don't have to worry about opinions and politics and just people not getting along. So those are big limiting factors. And then again, I think the curiosity, like if they're curious, they're wanting to learn, they're wanting to take on more responsibilities, then it's easy to promote people if they're ready to to sign up for the harder jobs or the, do something new or different to continue growing.
Yeah, I love that. So 2 more questions.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the people who are most successful in your organization or in your industry,
Mm-hmm.
what qualities, characteristics, or skills do they consistently demonstrate?
Mm-hmm. They're good communicators. They tend to be pretty good presenters also, because leadership roles, after 1 or 2 promotions, you're basically in leadership and you're going to be presenting in front of people. So they tend to be good at it. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. They're confident, but not overconfident. They're still quite humble. They're willing to listen and admit mistakes. They look for ways to help the organization, and they think bigger picture. They're not siloed in their immediate job. They're also figuring out how their job connects with other groups or departments and why it's important, and maybe thinking of other opportunities to improve things or make a difference in the company. So I think those are consistent attributes that we see in our leaders that are either being promoted or have already been promoted a lot. Another reason, and maybe this is dumb, but it's just people who have been with the company a long time and have built a lot of relationships and have shown over time that they can be relied on and be consistent. Costco, more than most companies I've worked at, really values tenure and being there for a while continue to grow and try other things and be somebody who thinks bigger picture as a team rather than just individual contributions. So those are all really big ones. I think you could look around Costco and that would be very consistent among the leadership group. Like our CEO was a forklift driver, right? And just consistently, he's been learning and growing and exhibiting leadership capabilities, and he seems like a fantastic CEO from what I can tell.
Yeah, knowing it from... I love the longevity and
Mm-hmm.
sticking to it with
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
That kind of the mentality is, it's like, well, if I want to get promoted, I need to leave and then come back, or jump ship, and just, it's kind of like that leadership jumping or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last question. If you were to advise your 17-year-old self who wants to be promoted, wants to be hired, wants to be successful, all of the things we've been talking about, what would you tell yourself to develop first, and why?
Looking back to my 17-year-old self, my advice is going to be pretty specific. And my advice would be to drop the ego and not worry about what other people are going to think about you or if you don't know something. Because early on I was very hesitant to admit what I didn't know, or was worried, what people would think of me if I was still learning. So I think that would be a really big advice for myself, just because how I was at that age. But then also some of the things we've been talking about, it's like, hey, try to solve the next problem for your boss and try to think through what they're worried about. Learn your job, do it well. That's easy advice. I think that was pretty naturally something that I was doing as a part-time employee or a full-time employee early on. But again, thinking bigger as to what does my boss need? And asking them, what can I do for you after I've done other stuff? Or thinking through, maybe trying to anticipate what they might need or want that's causing them stress or pain for the organization. So
I love that. Okay, well, those are the interview questions that I have. Do you have any questions for me about this?
No, I guess across the interviews, I don't have to stop. What would be, I guess, anything so far that's been kind of surprising that you're hearing from people who are involved in interviewing, recruiting, hiring decisions, anything that maybe would contradict your initial guesses as to how, what companies are looking for and how they do their hiring practices?
I found that there's a theme, because you touched on it with confidence and with humility and stuff like that. There's a theme in that regard, which is kind of hard. You can't really teach that at a university level. But there's also the quick reading people real fast that kind of surprised me. You didn't indicate it very much, but it's a lot of like you kind of know just by interacting with them that just the first 60 seconds impressions are pretty valuable.
Yeah.
I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that networking's a big part. Now you mentioned 50-50, but predominantly across the board, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
I've had a number of them say getting applications and Indeed is just like it's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And maybe for us, because I've only worked for companies that do get a lot of applications, that we can still be kind of selective. So maybe that's why. But actually, it's worth pointing out, in my current job and in previous jobs, we have used recruiters in the past who are outside of the company that we already know. Like the recruiter who sometimes,
they know what you're looking for.
They know exactly what we're looking for. In fact, he placed me with Costco, and he also brings us candidates occasionally. He's a dude in Florida, and he's like, he knows my specific industry very well. And so there's a couple of cases like that where like it's not really networking, but it's like I've known him over 15 years.
Right.
And if he comes to me with something or comes to me with a candidate, I'm like, oh, well, he kind of knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
So that is maybe like an interesting element to it where he's, there's a little bit of that.
In between the application and the networking.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, they network with headhunters.
Yeah, and we pay a sizable headhunter fee when we hire those people, but it's worth every penny if it's a strong candidate.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
We're going to add this to the data. All right, tell me about candidates and looking them in the eye.
Okay, so if we're interviewing somebody or talking to somebody who can't really look us in the eye and be comfortable kind of sharing the room with multiple interviewers and sharing time and not interrupting, I mean, these are, I guess, kind of soft skills or just communication skills that you don't really think about that often, but in an interview setting, when we're thinking about how this person is going to integrate with the team, that alone can decide whether or not we want this person. Like if they are looking down, if they're mumbling, if they're, kind of fidgeting a lot or just super nervous. Like it's okay if they're a little bit nervous, but if they can't look you in the eye or just have some of those subtle, again, it's kind of like confidence, but it's also almost mannerisms. And that one's tricky because there might be some cultural differences that we also, pay attention to and would account for. Because we want a variety of people on the team. We don't want a whole bunch of people who have the exact same mannerisms or are always going to be looking in the eye. Like it's okay if they're going to look you in the eye for a second and then look around. But yeah, they have to have some of that ability. And plus, in every job I've been in, we expect people to be able to have basic communication skills and be able to kind of understand some degree of like social cues.
So when it comes down to it, you've got two candidates. They seem to be equally qualified. There's some strengths, weaknesses, and stuff. But for the most part, it's like comes down to two of them. Would you say that eye contact would be a deal breaker for somebody?
Yeah. If they're looking down, if they can't really look you in the eye, then it's sending the wrong signals. I don't know if it's confidence or dishonesty or whatever, but if they can't look you in the eye and also pay some attention to each person that they're talking to, whether it's lunch or an interview setting, then that's kind of a red flag because we don't want, our team interacts with a lot of people and we need just those kind of basic communication skills. So we would definitely go with the person who's better at those or maybe naturally has some of those abilities or has practiced them to be comfortable with them. We'd go with that person over a similarly experienced or qualified candidate.